Good. For me, it is morning. It's 11:30. Where you are when you watch this, who knows? It may be afternoon, it may be night. I'm Robert McKay. The channel, of course, is Christianity on the Bottom Shelf. And that's an old phrase from J. Vernon McGee. He used to say about his Through the Bible program on the radio that he wanted to put the cookies on the bottom shelf where everybody could reach them. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to take Christianity and, and make it comprehensible to someone who doesn't know much, if anything, about Christianity. And what I'm doing here kind of goes against that in a way, but I'm going to see if I can make it work. And the reason is that there is so much misunderstanding about the subject that I'm embarking on. I'm going to do a series here on what's called the TULIP, or the 5 points of Calvinism. Now, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. As I say, there's a lot of misunderstanding about those ideas, those doctrines. And I want to, if I can, clear them up so that whatever you believe, at least you will understand where Calvinists, of which I'm one, are coming from. Actually, I like to say I'm Calvinistic, simply because there are some things Calvin taught which I think are absolutely wrong. But on these points, I think he was absolutely biblical. Now, here's where I started to get ahead of myself a moment ago. You don't have to believe any of the 5 points of Calvinism to be saved. There is not one word in the Bible which says, by Calvinism you are saved. You will not find any sermon, any letter in the New Testament which says, in order to be a Christian, in order to be saved, you must believe these 5 points of doctrine. And anybody who says, unless you're a Calvinist, you're not saved, either does not know the Bible or is deliberately contradicting the Bible. And that's a misconception about Calvinism that some, at least they call themselves Calvinists, have. I don't know how many times online I've come across somebody who says, oh, he doesn't believe these 5 points, he's not a Christian. Well, nobody believes those 5 points beginning with the moment of conversion. Nobody does. When someone comes to Christ, he knows nothing. And he begins to learn and grow from there. And so that's just a fallacy. It's an error. It is a contradiction of the gospel of God, which is believe on the Lord Jesus and you will be saved. But in this video, I want to just briefly go over what the 5 points are, and then in succeeding videos, go into each one in a little more detail. I try to keep these videos short. Some of the ones I've recorded recently have gotten beyond the length I like, but I want to keep this as short as I can. And so, just quickly, through each of the points, I won't go into detail. I won't tell you my preferred terminology for them. And that is not the way I wanted to say it. Everybody's got their preferred pronouns, as though the English language doesn't dictate which pronouns go with who. But I do have terms I prefer to use because they're more accurate. But just a brief overview. First, the foundation of Calvinism, the doctrines of grace, the 5 points, the TULIP, however you want to call it, is the absolute sovereignty of God. And if you've watched any of my videos, you know allergies eventually will kick in. And what does that mean? It means that God controls all things, period, end of discussion. How this allows for us to make genuinely free decisions, I'm not going to try to go into. I believe it. I find it in the Bible, but I am not at all certain that I'm competent to explain it. And that's deep water anyway, and I'm trying to stay in the shallow end. But without that absolute sovereignty, without, as Arthur Pink put it, just letting God be God, none of these points are going to work. So if you believe in a God who in some sense or to some degree only acts as a reaction to our actions, who, for instance, calls people to himself on the basis of the fact that they have come to him, as some have put it, electing those who elect themselves, then you're going to not have the foundation to understand these principles. You need to at least be able to grasp that from my viewpoint and from the viewpoint of those of my thinking, God is in control of everything from the quivering of the least subatomic particle to the vast order of the universe and everything in between, including the actions and decisions of men, which are still free. And again, as I said, I'm not going to try to explain how. So the 5 points then are: first, total depravity. I will go so far in this overview to say this does not mean that every single person is as wicked as he possibly can be. If that were the case, we'd all be dead. We'd have all killed each other. The next is unconditional election. Then comes limited atonement. And I'll say here, and not go further, that this is not a limitation on the power of Christ's atonement, but on its scope. Then comes irresistible grace. And then P, the last of the 5, the perseverance of the saints. And in a sense, as I used to put it, it's the preservation of the saints, but as we look at the doctrine, we'll see that it is the perseverance of the saints. Those are the 5 points we're going to look at in this series. And I do want to mention here, for all 4 subscribers to this channel, and any who may come later, that as I've said on previous occasions, I have to record these videos around my schedule and my wife's. She had me take her to the doctor today, and because of the parking situation and various other factors, she sent me on home. I'll go pick her up when she calls. But that means that I'm able to record videos. I think 3 weeks ago, as I sit here, I put in a video description. I don't know when I'm going to be able to post more, and then I was able to record 2, and now I'm at least starting on this series of 5. So be prepared at any moment for things to stop until schedules mesh and let me record more. But on that note, that's the overview of these 5 doctrines. As I've said, I believe they're biblical. If I did not believe so, I wouldn't believe them. When I thought they were unbiblical, I didn't believe them. Once I realized they are biblical, I then believed them. And that's the way we all need to be. God said it. That settles it. Period. End of discussion. And if I believe it, it's still settled. If I don't believe it, it's still settled. And on that note, all 4 of you, or however many there may be by the time I post this, that's the end of this video. I have no set sign-off. So the Lord bless you and keep you, I'll say, and I'll reach over and click the mouse to end the video.